So in our gifting business, we get cancellations from time to time, as most every business does. So we built in a strategy that the moment we get a notice of cancellation, we automatically send that client a thank you card. Nothing fancy, just, hey, thank you for the opportunity to potentially serve you. We appreciate the time that we've spent together. If there's anything that changes in the future, we'd love to win your business back. Here was the stat we tracked. 50% of those cancellations came back and repurchased within 6 months.
Wow.
That's a crazy stat because money you don't lose is money that you make. No one feels good having to cancel. No one feels good having to return something to a store or cancel an agreement. The relationship matters more than the business. The best referrals people have to give you don't just come from an incentive program. They come from seeing a demonstration that you care about the relationship more than just the business, and that's who we seek to do business with.
What's up, John? Good to have you on the show.
Justin, it has been a long time, man. I'm excited to be here with you.
Well, I love having, friends that I have known for years and years and years, where we just have history together, and you're one of those people. I feel like I've had this, front row seat or somewhat front row seat to your career taking off. And it's cool seeing what you have built with the Mr. Thank You Project. I actually remember when this was just like, hey, I'm just going to try this out and see what I think and see, where it lands. Like, I remember when this idea was just an idea and you hadn't even started it yet. Yep. And then I remember getting one of your thank you notes that was super powerful and super meaningful. And I was like, this thing I think has legs, and it has.
Yeah, here we are almost 10 years later. So I started the Mr. Thank You Project back in October of 2016. So yeah, it's been almost 10 years.
That is incredible. So let's dive into this because, you and I knew each other from the Cutco days. You'd done very well selling. I was, during the college years, I had sold and did well. And then I kind of went the management route. And then you continued in the professional sales route. Mm-hmm. And you always excelled. I think you built some teams under you. You helped mentor some other people on the sales side of things. And you've done a lot of gifting over the years. I know that you've worked closely with John Rulin, a good, our good friend that, really just passed too soon, way too soon. And I know there's some cool collaborations that could potentially be in the works, currently and in the future, with Giftology. And I've had Rod on the show. Of course, I had John on the show a couple of times. And it's fun seeing what you've been able to build, but you went in this totally different path. Like no one had done what you were embarking upon. So where did this idea of Mr. Thank You even come from?
Yeah. So, you kind of addressed a good part of that, which is, so I was a longtime Cutco person, but very specifically my market was business to business sales. So we targeted real estate professionals, mortgage professionals. We would sell them a year supply of gifts. They would run out. We would sell them more. So it was a great model. And so it was this irony, Justin, where I had built a really lucrative business and I was in a better place financially than I had ever been, right? So we bought our first house. I was married. We had our first child. But I was over it. Like I was overworked, overwhelmed, and just so unhappy. I was ready to walk away from all of it. And it all came to a headway one day when I came home from work and ready to do what I typically do, which is complain about my day. So
that's a great indicator right there, right?
Yeah, that was life.
Repetition of complaints.
And I walk in the front door, and before I can say anything, I just see my wife, Monica, and she's sitting on our couch, and she's nursing our infant son in one hand and handwriting a thank you card in the other hand to some people who supported her during her pregnancy. And it was one of these, it was like a painting. It was one of the most beautiful images I'd ever seen. And I couldn't appreciate it because I was so stressed and overwhelmed from my job. I couldn't appreciate anything. And I don't know how to describe what happened next, except for to say that I believe God spoke through my wife that day. It said something that changed my life forever, which is, if you can't appreciate what you have now, who's to say you'll be any happier when you finally get what you say you want?
That's powerful.
And because Justin, you, myself, a lot of our friends, we have a lot of the things that we need, like that we truly need, right? We've got our health, we've got our families, we've got these things. And yet I still found myself unhappy with what I had. And I didn't have a name for it then, but I do now. But I suffered from a problem called perpetual discontentment. perpetual discontentment, which is the never ending feeling that what is isn't enough.
Yep.
And, I won't ask if you suffer from that, Justin, but I find most every entrepreneur that I talk to typically does. But it's not always bad, right?
Right.
Because
it can be used as a driver, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if put in check, it can be really good. But if left to like just wreak havoc on your life, it could be, devastating.
Yeah, and you and I both have been in positions where we've achieved a sales goal or a marker, and we get the Rolex watch or the whatever the accolade is, and we sit there and it's like,
that's
a little deflating. It's like it's not
Yeah.
as much as you thought it would be. And I think high achievers have that part of them. And so for me, it was this irony of ironies, right? I was the most ungrateful gratitude salesman on planet Earth. So I decided to embark on a journey, and I had a coach I was working with, and his big thing that he taught me was it's important to embody your values, like to live out what you care about. If you say gratitude matters to you, how would I know that without you having to tell me? And so we started with this mission. So I created a mission for my business, which was our mission at Mr. Thank You is about elevating the level of gratitude on the planet. And it was beautiful when I wrote it out. It was like, that's it. And then there was a problem that I heard inside of a quote. And it's one of those quotes that when you hear it, you can't unhear it. But it's by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And what he says is, excuse me, I cannot hear what you are saying because who you are speaks so loudly. And what I love and simultaneously don't love about that quote is that it challenges us to be consistent with our words. Like it challenges us to not just say, hey, this is what I care about, but to actually prove it in our behavior. And the problem was, if you talk to 100 people who knew me at that time, they'd say some nice things like driven or successful, but they wouldn't say grateful. They wouldn't say appreciative, and they certainly would not say happy to describe me. So that how can that be? How can I be this guy who says he's about elevating gratitude on the planet, but I don't live it out in my life at all? So I embarked on a journey where my coach was saying, hey, the big thing here is we just need to find a way for you to live out this value of gratitude every day for a year. What's a moment or experience that you've seen gratitude in its purest form? And I thought back to that moment, seeing my wife, Monica, when I walked in the house and I see her nursing our infant son and writing handwritten cards. And I was like, well, what if I do that? Not the nursing part, but the handwritten card part. I was like, what if I make a commitment around just expressing gratitude every single day for an entire year just to see what happens? And I did not expect that it would become like this life-changing journey that I got to write a book about. I was asked to give a TED Talk on, and now I get to work with companies all over the world, teaching them this idea of gratitude as a competitive advantage.
Totally.
And so it's really worked into this whole movement.
Yeah, you've worked with big name companies and institutions like Harvard, and it was really cool to see you, like what you've been able to build. Just having a chance to be on Good Morning America. I remember watching that clip. I mean, it's really impressive what you've been able to build from what was originally just a 365-day experiment.
Yeah, and to clarify for the listeners, because there were rules to this. So it was a year-long journey. So the commitment was 5 handwritten thank you cards every day for a year. So it couldn't be a text or a video. Had to be handwritten. 2 is as everyday resets at 0. Okay, so I can't skip 3 days and then write 20 cards in a day. 3 is I can write a max of 3 cards for any one person. So this means, if I can't think of somebody, I can't write the 75th thank you card to my mother, right? Which she might appreciate, but they would lose their impact. And the 4th rule was really interesting. This is around accountability. And my coach said, hey, John, I love this idea, but where's the accountability? Like, what happens if you miss a day? And my initial response was like, okay, for every day I'm going to miss, I'll donate $100 to charity. Felt pretty good about that. And he looks at me and says, add a 0.
Oh, that's good.
And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah, you want some real
$1,000 every day that I
Yeah.
don't do? Like, that's bananas. So he said, but check this out, John. I don't want you to have to donate any money, but if when you think about throughout the year, how likely is it you're going to donate $100 or several $100s to charities anyways?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, we kind of do
You can
that with our
justify
tithing
it.
process. Yeah.
Yeah, you can justify those days off.
So then he says, so then how many days are you going to miss if the bounty is $1,000? And of course, the answer is 0. So that became the 4th and final rule, was $1,000 to charity for any and every day that I missed. And in total, when you do the math on it, 5 cards times 365 days is 1,825 letters of appreciation in 1 year's time.
Wow. What would you say was the greatest or even most surprising lesson that you learn? This could be business, this could be personal. Like, I mean, that's incredible discipline, but there have to be mountains of takeaways of what you've learned.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of different varieties of them, right? There's like the personal takeaways, there's the business takeaways, and truly like just life changing personal development, right? I'll give you kind of an interesting, funny story that I didn't expect to happen, but it's around this concept. So now, when I speak, I talk about how do you build life changing relationships, like how do you build connections that open deals, that create access that you wouldn't otherwise have, and honestly live a fulfilling life, right? Because that's a key of relationships. And so one of the things that I learned that's so important is this concept called emotional resilience, right? And emotional resilience is our ability to metabolize painful experiences into positive progress, right?
Okay.
And so the example I'll give is actually relevant for right now because it's NCAA basketball season, right?
Yep.
And I know you're a fan. I'm a graduate of Gonzaga University out of Spokane, Washington. And so for the first time in school history during the project, my team makes it to the NCAA national championship game. Crazy, like biggest news for any alumni, any fan. So we're playing the UNC Tar Heels championship game. It's Monday night, and it's like 13 lead changes. We're winning, they're winning. It's nail biter. We're up in the last minute. Last second, someone hits a shot. We lose the game. And I'm not a huge sports guy, and I always thought it was interesting if you watch the Super Bowl, you see people who's like the winning team and everyone's celebrating, and then the losing team, everyone's like flipping over cars and lighting trash cans on fire. And I never understood it until that day because I was so upset. Like my team, my baby, loses the biggest game in school history. Well, here's the interesting thing. It's like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. My wife puts the kids to bed. I haven't written my cards for the day. So I got to go write my cards, and I'm in the worst mood ever. Again, this is a silly example, but it's going to make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And the point is that I couldn't do it. I couldn't harness an ounce of gratitude because I was so upset that my team lost. Now, this is where learning definitions is important. So the definition of gratitude by Dr. Robert Emmons, he's a foremost researcher on the topic. He says, gratitude is the emotion one feels when you receive a gift or experience something as a gift. Let's unpack that, right? So someone gives you a gift unexpectedly, right? It's not even your birthday. How do you feel? That joy, that excitement, whatever you call it, that in essence is gratitude. But the other part of this definition is actually more important, which is the experience of something as a gift. So what does that mean? So just to go back to like maybe your early days, Justin, when you like that first girl that you fell in love with, maybe you're like middle school holding hands, you're like, we're going to get married one day, right? and then it's over, right? Whatever age you were or anyone was listening to this. How does that feel?
Oh,
it's awful. Yeah, it's awful, right?
Devastating. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like men are terrible, women are terrible, right? But yet with time and perspective, we can look back on that previously painful experience and say, well, I'm actually really glad that happened.
Yep.
I'm actually really glad that relationship ended because of all the things I learned about myself that I couldn't have learned any other way. I'm actually really glad that relationship ended because it allowed me to meet the person that I married, that I started a family with. So I can actually be really grateful in this moment from this previously painful experience. So the question becomes, how long does it take us to feel gratitude from a previously painful experience? And the answer is as long as it takes you to find the gift.
Mm.
And in every life experience, there is a gift, but it is your job to find it.
That's good. That's really good.
So when I'm, when I share this story with audiences, I'll ask them, I say, raise your hand if some of the greatest character qualities you possess have come from going through the hardest times of your life.
Oh yeah, hand raised.
Everyone raises their hand. So then I say, then why are you complaining about it? Why are you saying that whatever you're going through right now, you shouldn't be going through? Because what if what you're experiencing right now is exactly what you have to be going through to become the person who you're eventually meant to be? Like, what if you're exactly where you need to be right now? And so I'm at my desk, my team loses the big game, and I'm like racking my brain. Where's the gift? Where's the good? And it was like an epiphany. It was like, oh, I didn't watch my team lose the national championship. Like, we just watched arguably the best team in school history play the game of basketball. Like, that deserves to be celebrated. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write a handwritten card to every single player of the entire Gonzaga men's basketball team.
That's cool.
So
You're
I looked up
five
on
right
NCAA.
there, but you went beyond 5 for the whole team.
Oh, yeah. It was like
That's
15,
cool.
20 kids. So I went on NCAA.com, ESPN.com to look up all their highlights, their best games, so that every card was hyper specific to their contributions. Even the redshirts who didn't play to say, hey, championship teams are not made in the championship games. They're made in every practice that led up to it. So thank you for helping our team become the best in school history. And
That's
Justin,
cool.
Dude, it was crazy because it wasn't months, weeks, or days. I'm talking minutes from upset, anger, this shouldn't be happening, to feeling pure and authentic joy.
Yeah. Well, and I love it because they're going through probably even a stronger emotional struggle with, they just lost the game, right? And so now they're going to receive something that can be an instant gratitude shifter. I mean, that's awesome.
Well, absolutely. And the crazy thing that I learned, so there's two correlations to this. Number one is we actually thought about this from a business perspective and thought, well, man, how do we apply this to business? So we actually implemented a strategy. So in our gifting business, we get cancellations from time to time, as most every business does. So we built in a strategy that the moment we get a notice of cancellation, we automatically send that client a thank you card. Nothing fancy, just, hey, thank you for the opportunity to potentially serve you. We appreciate the time that we've spent together. If there's anything that changes in the future, we'd love to win your business back. Send this out to every cancellation. Here was the stat we tracked. 50% of those cancellations came back and repurchased within 6 months.
Wow.
That's a crazy stat because money,
that is.
You talk to investors all the time, right? Money you don't lose is money that you make.
That's
and
right.
It's wild because I shared this stat with Brad Johnson, one of our mutual friends who's in the financial services space.
Love Brad, yeah.
And he said, you know what? I started doing this and actually had that happen. We lost an advisor one time. So I sent him a thank you card just saying, hey, man, how much we've appreciated working with you. And he actually emailed him back and said, hey, Brad, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to leave. It was a decision with my partners. They made it happen. If we get the opportunity, I absolutely want to come back and work with you guys again. So it's interesting. Why does that work? Why does that happen? And I think there's actually a lesson for all of us to learn, which is when you think about relationships and loyalty, when does loyalty matter most? Loyalty matters most when things are hard.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, no one feels good having to cancel. No one feels good having to return something to a store or cancel an agreement. No one feels good about that. How many, Justin, have you ever returned something to a store and then received a thank you card from your salesperson?
Never.
Never, right? But what
Zero.
if you did? What if you did?
I would say you just went the extra mile because that's never happened before. It would be memorable because it's never happened. You'd be the one.
Yeah, you'd be the one that you would come back to and be like, I have to work with this person because nobody does that because they're telling you that the relationship matters more than the business. Yep. And that is something that in business we look for because we have to have a deep level of trust to do commerce. So here's the end of that story, which is, so 2 months go by. I forget I even do this whole thing with the Gonzaga Bulldogs, right? And on my birthday, May 21st, I'm out to dinner with my wife and she says, oh, something showed up for you in the mail today. And it's an envelope and it's addressed from Gonzaga men's basketball. And I open it up and inside is a handwritten card from Mark Few, the head coach of Gonzaga men's basketball. So for any listeners who don't know who Mark Few is one of the winningest coaches in the history of NCAA basketball. He was one of the head coaches of the U.S. men's Olympic basketball team that won the gold medal last year. Dude makes tens of millions of dollars, meaning, this is the point, I could not pay him to do this. And actually, in fact, since we're doing this on a podcast, I actually have that card. It's right here.
That's cool.
And I couldn't have paid him to do this, but this is the point, Justin, which is the best people have to give you cannot be bought.
Yeah.
The best referrals people have to give you don't just come from an incentive program. They come from seeing a demonstration that you care about the relationship more than just the business. And that's who we seek to do business with because we know they're going to do the right thing. And dude, that was a life-changing experience. And so that was, one kind of long story about an experience, but it had so many different parts to it. And there were hundreds of those experiences throughout the entire year.
Yeah, I love that story. And it makes me think of the way most people do business. And I think most people miss the mark. And so I'm curious from your experience, like what are some of the common mistakes that leaders make when they're trying to build like authentic relationships, real human connection with clients or employees or, whoever it is, vendors. But it seems like sometimes they fall short. Like how can we instead use gratitude to fix that or improve that or enhance that?
It's a great question, and I think that the answer is um, more in the process that we go through in making a connection in the first place, right? So here's what I mean. So corporately speaking, right? Business related, a CEO, a leader dealing with his sales team, his staff, clients. Typically, what goes out when it comes to this concept, right? Gratitude, appreciation is a generalized canned message that everybody gets the same, right?
Yep.
No offense to my insurance guy, but I get a Christmas letter from him that is the exact same thing he sends to everybody. Nothing wrong with that. I send Christmas letters with similar words, but it's like, even on my birthday, I get a card, but it's like super generic. I know he didn't actually write it. He didn't even know it was my birthday. I know his CRM sent a trigger off and it mailed me a card that he paid 50 cents for, right? No personalization.
Right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think we're missing an opportunity to make a true connection. So when I teach sales
or even to
leaders,
stand out in the crowd, from the rest of the crowd, right? I
Yeah.
mean, there may be an element of connection in there. There may not. It might just be something memorable, but to at least be an outlier.
well, and I think that the way that we do that, right, is you need to know something personal about the person to actually make that level of connection, right? So when what I teach, whether it's a sales group or leaders, like when you're onboarding a new person, or this could be someone that's literally worked with you for years and you've never had a deep conversation with them. I call this the rapid relatability formula. It's the three things to talk about to build a connection really quick, right? I call it story, significance, struggle, right? Story, significance, struggle. Story is, hey, tell me your story. How did you get here? What made you, interested in this business, in this industry, right? How did you get here? The interesting thing is when people tell you about their story, they're inadvertently telling you about their value system. They're telling you about how they've made decisions in life up to this point. I remember when I was in an office building for a while, and there was a front desk woman that everybody had access to. And she was always nice, never spoke with her. One day on Christmas, actually it was right around now, just after Christmas, we come in and I ask her, hey, what's your story? And it was just us in the coffee lounge area. So I just asked her, I'm like, hey, I don't know this lady at all. What's your story? How did you get here? And we just had an off conversation. She happened to mention something about recovering from cancer.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, because she was like 25 years old. And I was like, when did you get cancer? She's like, when I was 11.
Man.
And I was like, tell me what that was like. And then we had this amazing, powerful conversation about her recovery from cancer and how over Christmas break she was on the news because there was because the hospital that she was at in Dallas had a train set that would run 24/7 in the children's hospital, and they were remodeling the hospital, and so they were going to remove the train set. So she actually got like 10,000 signatures for the hospital to not remove it, and so she was on the news over Christmas break, saving the train set at the children's hospital. And I was like, you're
That's
a remarkable human being. How have I not known that you exist? And then so when I wrote her an authentic card later on that day and I left it on her desk, I talked about that because when you know something personal about a person like that and then you reflect it back to them, that shows that you're listening, that shows that you pay attention, that shows that you care. And I think that part of this is actually it helped me feel a personal connection to her. So I think the stories are a big part of that. So that's the first part. Significance is, what are you excited about? What are your goals? What are your dreams? What are you looking forward to? Because when people tell you about those items, especially if they work for you, right? Or they're a client and they're telling you about their goals and dreams, well, that tells you also how to package and position whatever you're going to talk about, your offer, to serve what they really want. And then the last one is struggle, which is, what are you struggling with? What's really hard in your life right now? And this is one of the things that not everybody likes to go there. And I wouldn't say that maybe the first time I meet someone, I would ask for their deepest, darkest secrets. But, but if I'm talking to somebody and we have a conversation and I just say, hey, what's the hardest part about your job? Like, what's the most difficult thing? Like, so as an example, I got to meet the pilots on my plane one time. I saw them they were sitting at a table outside of our gate. And I sit down with them. I go through my process. Hey, what's your story? How'd you become a pilot? What do you love about your job? What's the hardest part about your job? What do you struggle with? And they all get like softened up and they're like, I mean, everything we miss back at home. birthdays, anniversaries, special events. And then one of the pilots gets all excited and says, not this year. This is the first time in 20 years that I get to be home on Christmas Day.
Wow.
And my heart breaks for this guy.
That's tough.
And so I think about when we actually get to know those three things about a person. What's your story? What are you excited about? What are you looking forward to? What are your dreams? What are you struggling with? You can't but feel a more deeper connection.
Right.
And so when I'm writing somebody a letter, I learned that that's my little formula. Like that's the thing that I need to know about them to make sure that card is not just a, hey, thanks for the referral, or hey, thanks for the wedding gift. Like that it's personal, that it's meaningful, and it's shocking how that little adjustment, right? That going a little above and beyond. Again, it's not just be more personal. It's, well, how do you do that? It's you have to know more about them. And I think that was an unexpected outcome is that for me to write all these cards, I actually had to know people at a much deeper level than I ever cared to, which created a lot more deeper connections throughout the entire year.
Well, and one of the things I love about that, I learned this, early days when I did one-on-one meetings with different staff members in different companies that I built, or even early days in Cutco. And when you really get to know someone, you just tend to like them, right? Like as you build like trust and you're able to go deep, you're able to hear their story, hear, the aspects of significance in their life, hear the aspects of struggle in their life. It is hard to not like a person more. And so I've just always found like the more I'm committed to getting to know people, the more I really enjoy them. And for me, before I make big decisions on staff, like I need to know, like I need to get to know someone to see if we are compatible. And is this a person I'm going to like crave learning more about and kind of doing life with? So I love that framework.
Well, and it's funny. So obviously we're talking about gifting. So we have a new partnership with the giftology company. So our dear friend, John Rulin, passed away last year. And because, I've been in the gifting world for a while, I speak on gratitude. We developed a partnership. So now their team fulfills all of our gifting needs, which is super awesome for our clients. They get access to some really cool stuff. But this actually helps in the ability to gift at a higher level too, right? So I'll give you an example. One of the things, if you're building a relationship with somebody, I think a valuable thing to pay attention to is where does energy go in the conversation? What do they get really excited about? What do they get really upset about? And I try to look for the excitement and go deeper with that, right? So I met this gentleman a while back, and it was kind of funny. You and I have been to networking situations. And Justin, have you ever had an experience where you were in a networking experience and you could tell you were being prospected?
Oh, for sure. Happens all the time.
Like very specific questions they're asking you, and based on your responses right. And it feels disgusting, right? Nobody
yeah, it is inauthentic. It is, it's repellent is what it is. Like
it's gross.
That behavior repels me. Like I just want to go elsewhere and disappear.
Totally. So I meet this guy at an event, and we get coffee at his business. So he has he owns a co-working building, and so we like get together and we're chatting, and it was I didn't feel that with him, and that was the point, is that he genuinely was just curious about me, and I was curious about him, and it was pretty clear like there was no direct path for either of us to do business with each other, but we're like, man, I just like who you are as a person. Now in the conversation, I hear him talk about his wife, and he's really excited about her, and so I said, tell me your story about your wife. And so he shares about how they met. And it's a craziest story, Justin, which is they were on an airplane seated next to each other. And while they landed, they find out their airline has gone out of business.
Wow.
And they have a connecting flight, meaning they're trapped at an airport that they cannot leave. So they sit, so they go to the bar and they sit and have a great conversation. They exchange phone numbers. Eventually they get flights on other airlines. And eventually they get together, they get married. And I'm like, dude, that's an amazing story. So I go
That's
home
a
and I'm a
cool
gifter,
story.
right?
Yeah.
So I think how can I demonstrate something cool here with a gift? So I go on vistaprint.com. I find some coffee mugs. I look up the name of the airlines because Google has everything. And I find the logo of the old airlines. It was called Mesa Airlines. And I have it put onto the coffee mug, cost me $15. And on the other side, I put a quote that says, "A breakdown is just the start of a beautiful story." And I mailed two of them, one for him and one for his wife, with a handwritten metal thank you card, thanking him for the time and our conversation, very specific. And Justin, every event I went to after that, this guy could not shut up about that gift. And he told everybody about it.
That's so
And it was
cool.
one of these things that he's actually become a very strategic advisor in my life now. We've become very dear friends, and we've still never done business together. But I wonder what would have happened if because he didn't seem like a direct business connection, I just let it go.
Yeah.
How many?
How many of those do all of us lose out on in a given year, just based on not having that intentionality, not having that follow-up, not having the foresight to try to continue the relationship?
Absolutely. So that's what we try to do, whether it be through our gifting business or keynotes. It's just like we want to help people be better at building business relationships because we think that number one, that is access to living your dreams, right? Like you're not going to, the human potential exists inside of relationships. Like Justin, you have accomplished so much, and you know why I know why? Because how many times have you been a best man in a wedding?
It's a lot. It's probably 15 to 20 times.
That's a crazy stat, but that's because you mean so much to so many people. And so when you think of somebody who has the ability to raise money, to access deals and do things, it's because somebody who cares about relationships even when they can't get something back immediately. And that's something that is just dying in our world. And so we want to really resurrect it and teach people how to build better business relationships. So that's why we exist.
I love it. Well, I love your story. I love all that you're doing. It's so cool for me as a friend, seeing the success that you're having and the impact that you're making. It's powerful. Where can people learn more about you and Mr. Thank You, and just all the things in terms of gifting and gratitude and the education that you have?
Yeah, everything can be found at mrthankyou.com. That's just mrthankyou.com. And then on social media, you can find me everywhere by my name, which is John Israel. So just go by the John Israel pretty much everywhere on social. That's it.
I love it. And you know what's really cool? I say this all the time because I think, when you marry well, you have a spouse that sees things that you don't. And I think you and I have both married very discerning women, very wise women. And I feel like I've gotten better over the years at receiving that wisdom, actually recognizing that, no, I'm not right here. Like I need to listen up. I need to tune in. And it seems like you have that too. And I know, shout out really to Monica, because when she believes something, she's passionate, she's assertive. She'll let you know how it is. My wife is the same way. And this whole thing happened because of a statement she made to you in an effort to do what was best for you and your marriage. And you received it, which could have been hard in that moment to receive, and you ran with it. Super cool.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I love ending every podcast episode with a question for our audience. So if you're watching, if you're listening, what is one step you can take today to move towards financial freedom and really move towards living a life that you desire that's on your terms? Most people live a life by default. I'm talking about a life by design. And what we're hearing from John today is all kinds of intentionality and design aspect of how do I go after life and make it my own. So thank you for sharing that. I challenge you to pick one thing that John said today and put it into action. And really looking forward to 2026 and seeing what you're doing this year and beyond. And everyone tuning in, we'll catch you next week.
See you guys.